Thank you for listening to the ACLOWE show. It's been a long time since I've talked to you, a very long time. I don't know why, I don't know the reason, but I haven't been here for a while, and we've had some really great shows in my place, particularly the Bill Russo show. But tonight we have a special show. We have immediately to my left, Aimee Dugger.
Hi.
And hello, Aimee, how are you?
Good.
And to her left we have Cristina Cho.
Hi.
How are you, Cristina?
I'm great.
Great. But I wanted to talk about a couple of things first. First and foremost, I want to thank Bill Russo for being on the show in my place when I was unavailable. Thank you very much, Bill Russo. And we'll hear a little bit from Bill later on. And I want to thank the people in the Aleutian Islands for continuously listening to this program. I mean, regardless of wind or snow or ice, they still listen to the ACLOWE show. And we appreciate that very, very much. Tonight we have our special guest later on in the show, Alan Gordon, my good friend Alan Gordon, who I know all my life, even though I only met him a couple of months ago. How do you figure that? We're going to talk about all of that when Alan comes on the program. So let's get started. Let's get started here with the ACLOWE show. Aimee, tell us about your travels. That's what we want to talk about. I understand that you were here last week and you talked about your travels last week as well?
Yes, last week I was in London, and then yesterday I was in Belfast. So it was, as far as walking around trying to run into things, I got a shuttle drive from the shuttle guy at the hotel, and because we inquired about the Protestant and the Catholic that's so still prominent in within where I was in Belfast, and he drove us into the crossover part, which is very interesting because he said that the Catholics in that area still have to live like behind bars because there's mesh iron on all of the windows and the houses and around the houses, and they have like their Irish flag, and then you go across the street light and that's where the Protestants live, and there's cameras and there's the British flags, and it's very violent. So it
continues to be violent even though they have an agreement.
And you don't hear about that kind of stuff.
No, we don't hear about that very much. I'm surprised and I'm disappointed actually to hear that. What I want to ask you is there a police presence? Is there a good police presence?
I didn't see any.
No police. And when you were on the Protestant side of town, did they have bars on the windows and doors as well?
I did not see any. That was what was very interesting, is that it seemed as though the Catholics were more afraid of the Protestants. But
well, you know, there's concern with numbers, I guess. You know, this is a very complicated issue, and back in the time when the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, was telling people, why don't you go home, it's kind of hard to do that because the British and the Protestants were in that part of the country for about 500 years, even though the Irish Catholics were there, 2,000 years. So it was the same problem in South Africa. In South Africa, the Boers, they were there like 300 or 400 years, so when you tell them, why don't you go back where they came from, they feel that that's where they came from after 300 or 400 years, even though the black Africans had been there probably 200,000 years. So that issue was always complicated, and there's a lot of bloodshed, unfortunately. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm disappointed.
But it makes you very
anything
thankful.
Positive about your trust? About your,
I mean,
your trip?
It was positive in the sense that he took the time to show us, even though he was a Catholic, and he showed us other parts of the city, and that was the thing, is that it wasn't necessarily, I didn't take it negatively, it made me thankful, because we don't realize that, like in Syria, that things are going on inside Syria that we don't hear about. Things, right. Things happen in the United States that people don't hear about, and it made me thankful that we have our freedom here. And
you raise an important point, because when we hear about it on the news or see it or read about it, it's very superficial.
Right.
When you're in the middle of a war zone or in the middle of a catastrophe or a disaster, it's quite a different thing. And it changes your thinking for a long time. Here in this country, when it comes to stop and frisk, lots of people think it's a great idea, provided that they're not stopped and frisked.
Right.
And their assumption is that they'll never be stopped and frisked, but they will be stopped and frisked. And whoever they is in their perception, well, that's fine if they are stopped and frisked.
Not them.
But if they were ever stopped, I don't like if I go through a red light and a cop stops me. When I see him walking up to me, I don't know how that's going to end.
Right.
I don't know if he's going to
You
arrest me and
rule breaker.
take me away, even though he's got every right to stop me. You don't know what was, and if anyone's a New Yorker, it's very hard to grow up and be a grown man in New York and not have had some altercation with the police.
Right.
I don't know if it's got to do with training, and that's a whole other show.
It's the unknown, yeah.
Yeah, well, we really thank you when you tell us these little tidbits about where you go and what you do, because we're all kind of nailed in place here in New York
Right.
City, and you have an opportunity to travel all over. Can you mention who you work for, or is that...
I don't think I can.
Okay, don't.
So.
Because I would send them a
Not
bill.
this
As soon as
time.
you mentioned that name, I'll send them a bill for promoting the airline here on the ACLOWE show.
Thank you, though.
And I think you have a very exciting career, and I thank you for coming and giving us a little bit of insight of what you see. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm still glad.
And I met a guy from BBC when I was there the first time in Belfast, and he's in the studio. So I'm trying to get a tour, he said, of the BBC studio. So that'll be interesting. That's positive.
Wow.
For Belfast.
And they're in Belfast?
Yes.
It must be cheap labor. They must have Catholics working there.
Maybe. That works for me.
Oh,
Thank you.
We have our in-house photographer, William Russo, also known as Bill Russo, and the host and chief of the Bill Russo Show, the premier flagship program of the City World Radio Network. Thank you so much,
All right.
Aimee. Thank you so much for being on. That's Aimee Dugger. Let's have a wonderful hand for Aimee as she. Thank you. Just great. And I'm going to ask Alan Gordon to step into the shot here now. Yeah, let's hear for Alan Gordon. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you.